attendance here. I'd like to begin this with, either one of you go ahead and, taking a couple minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself and your perspective and us of your upcoming campaign.
Okay, well, Terry Sharpe. I've been employed at Cornell University for 23 years. I started off as a non-union employee. I've seen some of the advantages that the union employees were getting, and myself and a few other cashiers at the time in dining decided to join the union and got a hold of Al Davidoff, the president at the time, and we campaigned and we got Cornell to finally allow us to be in the union. And so at that point, I became a union officer, and I've been involved in the union ever since, in one way or another, whether it's to just help somebody who needs help, or just being the president, I guess. For 6 years, I was the president. We started out, well, I started out a little rocky. I was really unsure of myself. I'd never been in a position that high up in the union. It was always just, steward, a zone rep. People promised me they would help me. People did help me. Thought I made a lot of headway. The last election, I lost by, I believe it was like 45 votes. Not everybody came out and voted. I heard people telling me they were really upset, and I said, well, you shouldn't have voted for Jack. And they'd say, oh, I didn't vote. Well, the God's honest truth is they voted by not voting. They voted for somebody to come in who I thought was, a good vice president. He was going out and taking the time to see people. We sent him out to see if there were any problems. And during that time, he, I believe, was campaigning to become president. I'm not sure if I was doing anything wrong as the president. Maybe I wasn't as strong. I'm not sure because Jack won and I did not. I know I had a lot of support. I wasn't the president by myself. It took a whole executive board, the union stewards, the zone reps, the different groups within our own union and our international to help me be the president. I decided to throw my hat back in the ring. I feel we have a lot to accomplish, and as you can see today, it's unfortunate that we don't have strong membership here. And we have to get our membership stronger. I also understand people work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, have family, kids, other responsibilities. So coming to a meeting isn't always necessarily important for some people. The most important thing is that people come out and vote, and that sends a message to all of our membership and the people that we hold contracts with, the different groups. And with saying that, I'm going to let Brian talk.
Hi, I'm Brian. I was president before Terry was elected. And I think that I've been involved in unions, since about 1991, I think. I got injured on the job. I was going to lose my job. My supervisor at the time said when he contacted me that I broke 2 vertebrae and I was laying up, and one of the person in the union gave me a call and said, what's going on? And I said, well, I was terminated. They can't do that. Well, they did. He terminated me he called me up, asked me if I could return back to the farm. And at the time I was working for Farm Services, and I told him I couldn't. The doctor got me done, and at that time he said, you're terminated, I can't use you. And that's the first involvement I had with the union, and they actually, Al Davidoff, and they even hired a lawyer for me. I was surprised. At that time it was Peter Littman. And before Al Davidoff was done with them, they were driving me around looking for a job on campus. I remember that at the time her name was Esther Smith. She was driving me around campus in her Jeep. Well, what kind of job can you do? What kind of job can you want? So I thought that was I was very impressed by that, the union kind of going out like that. So I started I started supporting my union, and thought that was a cool thing. I kind of laid low. I was very active down at TCAT as a steward and a zone rep. And then with the advice of other people within the union, I decided to go for a higher position, and I won that position and became president. My simple philosophy is the highest member in the union isn't the president, it's the membership. We need the membership to get involved. I've seen a couple contracts go by now at Cornell and other areas, and I'm just like, I can't believe things that were gained over years are being lost. And I said we need more member involvement. I also am a strong advocate for the worker-to-worker program, and I think that that needs to get a jump start again. I think that's a program that would get more membership to participate. Pretty basically, simple guy, have a family, and just want more for the people that I'm working with and for our community. I've educated a lot of people, even after my past presidency, on how good the union is. I haven't stopped being an advocate of UAW, and I won't stop being an advocate of UAW regardless who holds office. And I think Terry knows that, and I think other knows that. Regards to the past contracts, I've seen some things go in all the contracts that proceeded or came after the one we negotiated, and some of the people in my clock are complaining because they don't see any involvement from anybody in the union. And obviously, that's to be expected. He's not here today, so that's a shame. So I'm out there. I threw my hat in the ring again because I think it's time for a change again. I think it's time to get it back on top.
If you have any questions for any of the candidates, you're more than welcome to go ahead and address each candidate or both, and they can both answer your questions to the best of their ability.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
All right, this one is for both of you. Through a quirk of the calendar, or perhaps some devious planning by Cornell, 3 years from now, both the upcoming UAW Local 2300 term of office and the Cornell contract will expire. That means that both the local president, who leads the Cornell bargaining team, and all the Cornell zone representatives who serve on the bargaining team will have to run for election or re-election during the critical early months of contract preparation and bargaining. Tell us how you would balance these important commitments and get the best contract possible.
I'll go first if that's okay.
That's fine.
We're gonna, after I'm elected, we're gonna start working on our next contract. And by doing so, involving our membership, it's not going to be the president and one or two people just negotiating our contract, as from what I understand happened in this last contract. The zone reps have to be totally involved, and we have to start mapping out our next contract now. And hopefully, by sharing with our membership what we're doing, will give them enough faith in re-electing everybody who's working on the contract. Because obviously the contract's going to be more important than who's actually elected again, but I think if we have some transparency, it's going to help.
Brian?
I have heard about what happened during the last contract. Our zone rep, my zone rep currently is Brian Hurley, and we sat down and we, with him and the members in the West Campus, put together a lot of proposals, a lot of work, a lot of things that we thought should have been brought to the table. When he went to bring them to the table, he was told it was too late. Now, he's on the bargaining committee. I don't know how anything could be too late for somebody on the bargaining committee. Henceforth, it was kind of like a rough shot. The zone reps didn't have as much input as they should have. They should have input. As far as coinciding, the bargaining team and I and the rest of the membership, we have paid. You start contracting the next contract a year before the next contract's due, and that's what you should do. And I'm hoping that the information that's put out there and information that the membership has is enough that they'll either decide that, yes, we should go forward and or with this president, or we think he's going the wrong way and we go the other way. I'm hoping that with this next contract, it'll be, a lot more participatory and there'll be more involvement, so they will make the right choice at that time.
Someone else have a question for the candidates?
I have a question for Brian. Brian, you keep talking about TCAT and all you did for TCAT when you were involved and everything else stuff, but it's kind of misleading when you say TCAT, because at that time there was 3 separate entities involved here. You're talking TCAT as a umbrella organization. But keep in mind, there was 3 different unions involved at that time. You represented only Cornell, not TCAT. So you need to make that differentiation here between UAW Cornell at TCAT, CSEA at TCAT, plus the county at TCAT. So where were your interest on the other ones? You didn't have nothing to do with that.
Well, first of all.
So when you keep saying TCAT, you're misleading everybody.
Well, no, it was called TCAT when I was there.
I understand that,
TCAT
but you're not differentiating the different unions.
Yeah, there was only 2 unions, not 3.
Okay.
Under Tom Tran, TCAT's an organization that included Tom Tran, Ithaca Transit, and Cornell University, which is Seton Transit.
Right.
I actually fought hard against putting them 3 together because I knew that would eliminate one union, eliminated CSEA, and it did. I will also say that TCAT was called TCAT way before those unions dissolved. During that negotiations and when we were fighting for survival, we called it at TCAT, it was a difficult time for everybody. We've had a lot of information meetings, and we had information meetings all over. Everybody was concerned about their future, where we were going. Under the current system, we wanted to have union representation on the board. We wanted union representation always there at the board meetings. We wanted union representation everywhere we could get it. And it was difficult because they weren't always inviting us to all their meetings. Currently, TCAT's being run by the executive board of TCAT, which is 3 people from Cornell, 3 people from the county, and 3 elected people from the city of Ithaca. And I used to love Harry Evans' explanation of this, is they're running roughshod over them because you don't put that kind of money on the executive board unless you plan on controlling it. That's exactly what Cornell University did. Cornell University is still doing the same thing. They're putting a lot of money in their representatives to come down here and control that board. They've been controlling the city and they've been controlling the county. We tried other avenues to get to the members down at TCAT what they wanted through political pressure through the city and through the county. People always wonder, well, why is our union involved in politics? Well, because politics is involved in what we do every day, and that TCAT board is one of them. So the more voices we have in that TCAT board, the more we can gain from the drivers and from the workers down at TCAT. When I was there, I fought hard, not just for the members of the UAW. I fought hard for everybody that was employed there, Ithaca Transit as well. I had a lot of meetings with the CSEA rep to try to make everything run smooth down there. So the past experience I have down there wasn't with just, one, it was all parties involved. And I don't see a lot different today. You're still gonna try to negotiate the best contract you get. You still need the political pressures that you got from the outside, and you still need to be involved. And I think that needs to happen. I was handed a contract for TCAT when I was down there last time, looking for support. And I went through that contract, and is it one that I would be happy with? No, I wouldn't be happy with it. There's a lot of things that have changed over the years since I've been involved in TCAT, since I was a driver. There's a lot of things that's changed. The TCAT drivers have lost a lot since they were all under CSEA and UAW. And I think it's time for them to get some of that stuff back. And I would advocate that, the way that we negotiate, we can make that happen. But there's not a big division there between UAW up on campus and TCAT down below. I think they all want the same thing, and I think they're being controlled by politics in Cornell University, and that's gotta change.
How would you change that?
Well, the first thing I do is be more involved. I have to get the membership involved. I changed it once before with the worker-to-worker program. I think it could be changed again by getting people involved. I also know that there has to be more communication from our union, from our people up on campus, because you got a lot of people up on campus that support you. When we heard about the picket that happened, we didn't hear about it until 2 weeks after it happened. Things like that, I think that they need to get more involved. I also think that it can't be done by only a couple people. I think it needs to take the whole union. We go down there for our meetings at the union hall, it involves everybody, not just core groups. And I think that's one way. The other thing I think could change is politics. I think you need to be involved in politics. You need to get down there and say, hey, I need to meet with the mayor. I need to talk to him about what's happening. A lot of things can change. So those are some of the things I would do. Without the complexity of knowing where they are at this moment, it would be difficult for me to say, we can do. I have to find out where we are and evaluate that.
I have another question. I have lots of questions actually and stuff, but this will concern both of us. Our contract is coming up in 2014, as well as our elected members. What would you do to help us negotiate another contract with the election committee coming up too as well? We're going to say about the Cornell over here.
Well, first of all, I think this last contract, from what I understand, is pretty much done the same as the Cornell contract. And it's really important, whoever your chair and your vice chair and any other representatives are in there, is that the president has to work with them. We took 6 years to build a workable, it wasn't the best relationship, but a workable relationship with TCAP. And I think this last 3 years, it was all thrown away. And there are avenues, like Brian had said, about going and asking for help, funding. And personally, nobody had gone and asked anybody for any money. Not the union and not TCAP. And the people that you already have elected, I think, are probably really good for the most part. I mean, I haven't had a chance to work with any of those individuals, but I think I can't help whoever wants to run get elected. As the president, I think you kind of have to step back and say, okay, you know, these are the people that are running, but as soon as somebody puts their hat in, and if there's opposition, whoever gets elected immediately, whatever you've already started working on has to be put forward, because your contract's up next year. So whoever's in charge now down there, as far as your chair and your vice chair, they gotta start planning and working on their contract. And hopefully by working with the membership too, that's going to give them confidence to re-elect them. I mean, I don't know how else to say it other than we're all in this predicament, and it's kind of sad. The Cornell contract should have been a one-year contract. They didn't have anything they wanted to offer. We shouldn't have gone. We could, you know what? We could go a year and renegotiate. You know, I don't. Like I said, I wasn't there. I can't imagine. I've heard from people that came and they were telling me, and I'm just beside myself. I really am. I just don't understand how it happened, and that can't happen again. It cannot happen for TCAP. It can't happen for the libraries, for the housing authority, for Cornell. It just cannot happen. In Bolton Point now, because I hear we have 3 members out at Bolton Point.
Ryan, how would you help us?
Well, the first thing, and I'm just gonna throw this back out there, is you gotta get involvement. Involvement is key. You have involvement from all players, not just TCAP, but the other entities, the other Cornell, the library, wherever we have people need involvement, so that's gonna help. It gives you support. The second thing is there's a lot of funding sources out there, and if you've got political support and you can squeeze funding, that helps as well. They always throw the curve that, well, if you squeeze us much, it'll lay people off. That ain't gonna happen. they're gonna run these TCAT buses regardless. I always thought that TCAT, being a private agency, having the UAW was a stronghold. When I was president, we had to deal with both. We had to deal with PERB, with public employees, and also the National Labor Rights Act. And it was difficult because which way to go, which way to cut funds off and everything. But you guys still have the position and the power. You can strike. And that scares them. And they don't like that. Believe me, they much rather had it where you were all CSEA, where you were public, and you didn't have that ability to strike. I know that the TCAT would have wanted that. It didn't happen, thank God. I think that gives you guys a very good location as far as negotiating and saying, hey, don't make us walk. And I think that needs to be stressed on. Squeezing the funding sources would help as well. So, as far as the next contract going, she's right. It should start now. If it's you got a contract expiring in a year, it should start a year in advance. Always start a year in advance. You don't stop. You never stop bargaining. You always keep going for what you want.
I have lots of questions and stuff. I don't want to monopolize this whole thing here, obviously, so I'm going to let somebody else. I said I have lots of questions. I don't want to monopolize this whole thing, but I'm going to take a break for a minute to let somebody else ask.
I've got a question. I should introduce myself. I'm Joan Lockwood. And back in the 80s, I was involved with the clerical organizing committee. When that, went south, I volunteered and worked on the Fairfax. I'm back after 14 years in Oregon to work on the Fairfax. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled about it. And excuse me if I ramble a little bit. But coming back into Ithaca after being away for a while, I see a huge amount of growth. I see buildings going up everywhere. Ithaca is booming. It's like, wow, this is fantastic. But nationally, I think that kind of masks things a little bit. Nationally, we have a situation of huge income inequality. The rich are getting richer, they're getting all the breaks. Working people are just kind of hanging on to one degree or another. At Cornell, members have a pretty good hourly wage, which kind of tends to lead to some complacency. They say, well, I'm doing okay, but that's kind of shaky, I look around, I go to Tops and Wegmans and Target and stuff, and man, those prices are high. They are not what I've been accustomed to pay in Oregon, which is, it's 3,000 miles, but it's not that far away. Even at my son's in Ohio, no, prices are better. Even though the hourly wage is pretty good, I see a real opportunity there for things for working people to slip a whole lot, not to be able to hang on. I guess my question boils down to, what's your vision? How do we communicate that to people? How do we say, hey, you've got numbers really count. We need people to be active and visible. What's your vision for bargaining? Cornell is a fearsome advocate. I mean, they've got resources like crazy. We've got resources too. I think I want to ask, what's your vision? Where do you want to see the union in 5 years?
Personally, I'd love to see all the clericals up at Cornell. I really would. That would take a huge amount of resources from the international to get involved. I know we had a good opportunity to organize those back when, I think it was it Rollins was our president, and Al Davidoff planted a seed about 2,000 people being let go. That was actually a fact. A lot of people got laid off at Cornell, like across the board. That would have been the perfect opportunity. Our international, I don't know what happened, why it didn't happen. I think that's when they were trying to organize the TAs, or
The grad students.
the grad students. And it's unfortunate. I would love to see our union bigger, stronger. I've been to some of the international conventions and, you know, conferences and stuff like that, and I see these groups of people coming in, and the things that they have and they talk about, it's like, that's what I would like to see for our union. The camaraderie, you know, just like, hey, you're a union brother, and, you know, I don't know how we can possibly get there other than we have to start doing things for our membership so that they feel like they're a part of something. When we got the retirees luncheon started, and I heard from some of the TCAP people that retired from Cornell but were still driving and upset because they didn't get an invitation to the retirees luncheon, because they technically retired from Cornell and kept on working down with TCAP. But you know, that's something. I'd like to see us do more for those people, get them on a day trip. The Women's Committee, we just started getting the Women's Committee up and going, and the Women's Committee can do a lot for our membership. I feel they can. Whether it's just to help with, you know, I had a vision and I talked to some of our members, you know, a lot of our members work a couple of jobs. I'm one of them. I work 2 jobs. But to help somehow, like with back to school for their kids, I talked to some of our members that are hairdressers, and I also have some hairdresser friends that would be willing to put up, you know, we could basically assemble these hairdressers and have free haircuts for our kids to go back to school. Now, my kids are grown, but I know what a struggle it is, and even if it's one less expense. And you start doing things for our members, having a big barbecue, a big party, once in a while. I mean, people will start coming, and once they start coming and feel like they're a part of it, that kind of spreads. It makes you want to belong. And I think in the future, I would just love to see, this place should be packed today. It should be packed. Yep, today's Sunday, it's your only day off, or, you know, you got a barbecue, but you know what, I'm gonna go to this. This is important. And the only way I think we can do that is by trying to get more involved and do more for our members. I mean, you know, legally, we can't just give them money. You know, we're not allowed to. We could have all the money in the bank, but we can't give our members money legally. Yeah, you can give them a shirt. I'd like to see all of our union members in shirts. You know, I'd like to see, you know, Sharpe Park flooded. I go to the Labor Day picnic when I was the president, and nothing against the Labor Day picnic, but our members, we have a lot of our members that are actually working on Labor Day because they can't have the day off, they have to work. And so, but as the president, you go down there and you're present, and I see more people down there eating at the Labor Day picnic that don't have jobs, that don't work. And I don't know if it's because they can't get a job or they don't want to work. And to me, you know, it's great for that, but we really need to have something of our own, you know, just being out there so people really want to belong, and have people knocking on our door, hey, we want to organize, hey, we want to join your club. And, you know, I think some of our committees can do that, and the more that they see them out there, you know, the more people would want to belong and want to participate.
Unionism is on the decline in the United States, and a lot of that has to do with politics. It really does. You know, you got workers that are being trained to think that unions are just there to take your dues and they don't care about you. And you've got that across the country. You've got these right-to-work states popping up, and that's all politics. And it's the big rich corporations and the powerful people like the Koch brothers in this country that are controlling the main thing, and that's called the media. And we need to gain some of that media back. So one of the things that throws me off, and this is 12 years ago, or not even that long ago, but when we're looking at why are unions declining? Well, when you have a regional with organizing, they have organizers that they hire. Well, we only have 3 in our region, and this is when we see things declining. and they have 3 organizers for the whole region, now we're talking about all New York State, that's hard to build a stronger and more bigger union if you only have 3 organizers. Everybody needs to be involved, and it's not just the locals, it's international. It comes to our organizing base and bringing back the union population again. I'm not sure, I just heard, I think it was 12.3%, maybe a little bit higher, that unionism is down. Now that's a huge decline.
It was 11.6.
11.7, so it's more than
6%,
one.
and 6% of that was in the private sector, the balance was in the public sector.
So that's a huge decline, and it's happening across the country. And when you got an organization, one of the things I always told people, they talk about, oh, union, you know what, unions are the only thing out there looking out for the working people. They are the only agency out there that are out there to get your money. They're just out there looking out for you. They're using that money to get them. I will also say, I want to hit on one note that we need to structure and let our international reps know that when they're not doing the job, they got to be held accountable as well. I look at the salary ranges on some of our international staff, and it appalls me. And they can look good, and they can feel good, but one of the things I've been advocating is, you know what, you got to come back down here to reality. The reality is, if we're losing, you're losing, and they need to get more organized. They need to get back. The worker-to-worker program is one of those ways that we can get people involved. I'd like to get that initiated again. It's a difficult process. It really is. Otherwise, it'd be going full steam ahead. It's difficult to go and knock on people's doors and say, hi, I'm Brian. I'm from your UAW, and I'd like to talk to you for a couple minutes and see if we can exchange ideas. That's hard. In order to do that, you got to train your members to be organizers. And that's something I advocated for a long time. Everybody should be an organizer. Everybody. We see the goods. The other thing is, Cornell, when you say they're doing really good with their wages, during my contract, it's the first time I think across the board everyone made a living wage. But when you count the living wage, and we're big on the living wage in Thomas County, when you count the living wage, you got to keep in mind that we have a lot of people that are off for the summer, dining workers explicitly. We have some that that aren't getting the hours they need, and that doesn't give them the living wage. So we got to get back to that. We got to maintain a living wage for all our workers across the board, not just Cornell, across the board. So, and there's no reason why every worker in the United States shouldn't be making a living wage in my eyes. You should be able to afford your health care. I looked at our last contract, and I was quite vocal when I stood up in the auditorium and gave people help, because I'm looking at the cost of living, I'm looking at insurance costs, I'm looking at everything across the board, and I'm looking at what people are making. I knew damn well that contract would keep people underneath the living wage, and that's not fair to our members at all. And that gets people upset, got me upset. So that's first. The other things that we can do is we can be involved. Unions were best when they were involved in their communities. You have to be involved in your community. There's things that we can do in the community that help us keep involved. And I'm not talking about the NASCAR thing. I'm talking about just the basic things that Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts do, car wash, things like that. Just to let people know that we're out there, and we're out there to help. The Workers' Rights Center's been doing a fabulous job of getting out in the community and letting people know that they exist. And they've been doing wonderful stuff down there. Some of those basic things we can do right within our local. So we can get more involved in our community, more involved in our state.
Back to you, Mr. Thumb.
Most of my questions are gonna be for Brian, because I don't know Brian other than vaguely. When I first started working at TCAT, he was an unknown factor, and I never saw him again as such.
Well, actually, I'm on your casual list. You don't think they're going to call me back, though?
Well, I used to see you up on North Campus every once in a while. I was hanging on the steering wheel, letting you wave, and then he quit waving. I said, well, apparently he's too far up the chase.
I was waving for a long time till everybody stopped waving because they were all new. They didn't know who that guy was.
Oh, well, there's still of
A lot
us,
of changes.
a few of us old goats still around
Yep.
here. According to Cornell Sun, Archives, October 18th, 2001. Your contract that you negotiated took effect. It was agreed upon in June, I assume, of '01, and it took effect in July of '01. I assume.
It's history, but yeah,
Okay,
that's a long time ago.
I understand that. But in your cover letter here and stuff, you talk about negotiating during hard times. You were president, or you negotiated a contract during 9/11, which was basically after the fact. And you talk about the uncertain economy. What is so different about that time as opposed to what this time is and stuff, where the New York State went broke? Everybody's crying, complaining they have no money, TCAT as well, UAW, Cornell. What is different now as opposed to
The
this?
fiscal things that happened after 9/11 affected everybody.
Right, I understand that, but that was, 9/11 was after the contract was negotiated. So you're talking about two different things here and stuff, but you're trying to roll it all into one.
What I'm saying is, those things, they were hard on every employee. Those days are gone. There's no reason why we can't negotiate a fair, equitable contracts with any of the groups that we have right now. They can't use that fiscal or irresponsibility, I should say, because it's the Wall Street rulers against help. But they can't use that as a crutch anymore. So we all, everybody, every unit out there should be getting a better contract because those fiscal challenges are gone. And the other things that make that different back then is there was so much uncertainty before. There was a lot of cuts, not just in that. You had the Bush tax cuts, you had a lot of things happening before that. And we had an uncertain economy for a long time. The other thing that happened just before that contract was fuel costs. Fuel costs were going crazy. And TCAT was using that as a crutch, a big crutch. They were saying, hey, we can't afford it. Yeah, you can. I believe that Scott Montani worked with me on TCAT before, and we threatened to open up their books. And they didn't like that a bit. When you tell them, you're open the books, let's see how much you're paying for fuel. Because they were using that, at that time it was Ron Gearing. Fuel cost was everything to him. It's like, oh, bullshit. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. So there's things that you can do to make sure you get an equitable and fair contract with every unit out there. And those are the things I would do now. Terry didn't get a chance to, oh, just for me, never mind.
I'm just, like I said, I've been around.
I was waiting for Terry. Terry,
No, I'm not, Terry was around when I was, she did her 6 years when I was still awake here. If you're so concerned with where the UAW at 2300 is going at this time, why have you waited so long to say something after your first term?
Oh, I've never stopped talking.
Why didn't you just wait?
I have long hours of talking, and even after my term, there's many people that come to me, and there's many people that have questions. I will tell you this, I'm still concerned, but after I hand over the reign, I swore to Terry, and I don't know if you swore to Jack or someone else did, but after you hand it over, you don't want to step on toes neither. So you gotta, and the advice of the people that I've talked to, the advice of them, step back for a while.
Right.
Step back, let them do their thing, and you do that. I've been involved enough. I still have representatives that do my advocate for me. That's what the representatives are there for. Just like our congressional people. I don't go to every Senate meeting, but I have people that do that for me, and I call them and I keep them involved. So I've been doing it that way.
I was just curious as to why you hadn't thrown your hat back in after.
I actually went down to, I went to a few meetings. I went, and Terry did Terry didn't do a bad job. Not as bad as the job's being done now. When I went down to one meeting, they were negotiating jackets for people that didn't need them, and we got dining workers out on layoff. That, for lack of a better term, pissed me off. And so a group of us came down there, and from West Campus, because of our rep letting us know now's the time to go down there and put a stop to that, we did it, and it did get stopped. So we've been involved, just on the outside.
I have a question. For many of the TCAT members down there, they've all asked me to go ahead and entertain this idea to bring forward to both candidates of your overall view of the last 3 years for the UAW members under this, under our current president. What would you do different to get and try to make it a little bit better for the people here? And would you support them, and how would you support them?
Involvement. I'm not dictating anything. When I heard about the last contracts that were When you say negotiate, I believe that everybody will negotiate, and I believe it's the bargaining committee negotiating, and it's everybody together, not dictating, saying this is how it's gonna be, not saying it's too late for their proposals. Those are things that you just don't do. The bargaining committee is the people that are elected by their representatives, by their people, to go in and do their bit. And to assume that and just put them out, that's just unconscionable. I don't know why that would happen. I'm not for that. So involvement.
Involvement's easy to say. Look at this room.
Yeah, I know. Well, the worker to worker problem might help some of that.
Can you repeat your question?
Over the last 3 years, under this new reign of the president, a lot of the membership would like to know what you would have done different in order to go ahead, make it better for us, because as everybody says, you can see right here, there's nobody here. I go to the union meetings just about every month, and you're really lucky to get a quorum there. You're right, Steve, you only get 6 to 8 people, just enough to get the meetings on.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why we have so many members, yet we only have 6 people show up for the monthly thing. I don't understand how to, what your position is to try to get this to work.
Well, let's see. Involvement is right, exactly what he said. I think you need to recruit some people. We do not have very strong officers in a lot of our areas, and it's not necessarily all their fault. Some of it is through education. They have to be educated on how to write a grievance, how to maybe prevent a grievance, maybe change, first of all, we need to get with the future here. I mean, we're in the past a lot, and maybe it's time to start thinking about our membership meeting date and time. It's been the 3rd Thursday of every month for the history of this local, as far as I know. I think years ago, when they first started, they used to have 2 meetings because they had so many people showing up. It was exciting, it was new, people were coming. I think it's possible we could do 2 meetings. We could, maybe move them around a little bit. Not always at the Union Hall that can't hold all of the members that we would love to see show up. I think part of the problem is we have to start educating, starting with our stewards, our zone reps, our executive board, holding people accountable that take these positions. And, if you're not going to come, then we need to find somebody else. And I think we could do that through, there's people out there, I think if you ask, they would do it. I think they're afraid. They're not gonna step up and volunteer. And I think if you can help them do a better job, I think that's going to help.
I think here with as many members as we have throughout all of the different organizations that are part of the local 2300, we have a vast pool, a very intelligent pool that's very skilled in very different and diverse ways. And I think that I'd really like to know how you guys would go ahead and go about, trying to get them involved so they could do some of these things as opposed to us, because we continue to pay for things. We continue to pay the union dollars that we collect every day for something, to be done, that we have the opportunity, the skill sets and everything else combined right within our local to do. I don't know about you guys, but that just doesn't seem appropriate to me.
That's a hard thing. The worker to worker problem might solve some of that. I would also say that you don't buy lunches for the staff, you buy lunches for the membership. You do everything you can to get them down there. During my term, I think, Terry, it was 3 meetings we had that one time, right? We did it a couple times. We had a townhouse, and we separated our meetings out. So we'd have 3 meetings during the day instead of a couple, just to try to get involvement. And even with the 3 meetings in the various locations at Cornell and other, we didn't get a large turnout. And it's hard. It is a difficult thing. Organizing, teaching people to be organizers is the first thing we gotta do. We gotta organize the organized. Simple as that. And the worker-to-worker problem, get that kick-started. When I was a worker-to-worker organizer underneath Harry's term, I was out in the community, I was doing things. when I ran for president, I no longer could do that. I assigned that to somebody else, what said they wanted to be the work organizer, but God rest his soul, he didn't do a very good job. And that happens. And when you're down at the union hall as the president, you're out there working with all the contracts, not just one or two. And you don't have time to run to every area and try to get that going. Starting that worker program is the best way, I think, that we can organize to organize.
Well, I think, for one, the president needs to be a little more visible. And if that means going to clock meetings, going to workplaces. When I first got elected, Al Davidoff took me to lunch. And he gave me some really sound advice. And he told me that I would have to do, first of all, be more like Harry Evans and be out in the workplace more. Be less like Harry Evans and more like himself, and let the officers handle the grievances, and can't do everyone yourself until it gets to the higher level. Because Harry used to always just try to deal with everything, you know, instead of letting the officers take on the responsibility that they were elected to or stepped up to the plate to take. Back when I was a zone rep, you were never, we didn't have elections for zone reps. We were just appointed. And you were appointed by the president. You know, Al Davidoff would come over and say, I want you to be, and I remember when we negotiated to get in the contract, he goes, you're gonna be a union officer. I said, only for the cashiers, that's all I wanna do. I don't wanna do anything else because that's all I know. Before I knew it, I was representing all the dining workers in my dining hall and then other dining halls. And next thing you know, you're gonna be on the bargaining team and you're a zone rep and okay, you know, and I did it because he had faith in me and I wanted to do a good job for him. And now we elect our zone reps. And I think part of what happens is we don't have anybody who wants to step up to the plate because nobody comes to them and tells them, you know what, I think you'd make a great officer. And I know a few people that would make great officers, but they're like, I don't have time to do it, I don't have the time. And I think somehow we have to rearrange some of the way we're so rigid. I know we have bylaws, I know we have to have certain things happen, but I think we can rearrange our time schedule. That's like today, you picked a Sunday because that was the day that most people have off. Not all of our members, you know, our members work all different hours.
It was the majority, and that's the reason I took it.
And, you know, and that worked out great for me, because that's my only day off right now is Sunday, and so it worked out. But I think if we can try and make some accommodations, maybe, I don't know, I just don't know the answer. And I'd be glad if anybody could just step up and give me the answer.
You have more, Mary?
Why y'all picking on me?
You're the one with all the papers.
I just,
You're the one loaded
yeah, I
over
got
there.
toilet paper,
You must have thought
Do a lot
about
of
this a
dry.
lot.
Well, I read things and I have little notes and then,
That's
you
okay.
know.
See, that's great. No, that's good. I'm
I
glad
just-
that you're doing
there's a couple things that really aggravate me and that just drive me nuts and such. And TCAT, as being part of the 2300 union or whatever and stuff, when we have regional people, zone reps or whatever you want to call them, the hierarchy, over and above Jack, whoever they might be, like Mark Barbie and those people, that say that we're having so many issues at TCAT, we don't care really what you do because you're only 100 plus members. Where's the loyalty?
Well, let me see. If I were your president and I was hearing that coming out of our international rep, you don't think I would be going above their head? Absolutely. Because personally, I mean, we've had great international reps. And when I first joined the union, we had an international rep who would come to our bargaining and sit there and never say a word. Because at that time, our president, Al Davidoff, was a pretty smart guy, and he could pretty much do everything. He didn't really need the international to help him do anything, because he graduated from the Cornell ILR school. He, knew a lot. And then when we had Harry needed some help, you know. Brian needed help, I needed help. I mean, you can't just do it by yourself. You don't just walk in and know everything. Well, some people maybe. I personally needed help. And we were fortunate to have good international reps. I'll tell you, when we had Neil Falcone, I like Neil, he's a great guy, but I thought he was worthless. Because I didn't think he really did anything for us. He would just sit there in the room and would do all the talking. And, you know, the bargaining